Do this real quickly. Okay, you all, this is going to be, and my notes are gone. Your Q&A number 200, number 1. So let me give you some proper names. You have Mary Ann Mesa, Mr. Camacho, Ms. Janet Ford, Bubble Drive, Las Cruces, Mayfield High School, Hoagland, Geostorm, and Embassy. And so this is going to be 200 Q&A number 1 for 5 minutes, you all. And it starts at the very beginning. Mary, why don't you give me your full name for the record?
Mary Ann Mesa.
Mary, have you ever had your deposition taken before?
There was a guy that went into my house from insurance or something.
Do you know what a deposition is?
Not exactly.
What we are going to do today is ask you some questions. I will ask you questions, and after I'm done, Mr. Camacho, the attorney for the plaintiff, will ask you questions. I represent the defendant, okay? The questions we're going to ask you are about the October 8, 1998 accident. Ms. Janet Ford here will take down everything that you say, and later on, it will be transcribed into a book form that can be read. While I ask you these questions, what I want you to do is please remember to answer yes or no, or explain the answer.
Okay.
Don't say uh-huh or or nod your head, because the court reporter won't be able to take that down adequately. The other thing is, if I ask you a question that you don't hear or understand, please ask me to repeat it or rephrase it, okay?
Okay.
When I do ask a question, please wait until I finish asking the question before you start answering, so we don't talk over each other, okay?
All right.
Mary, what is your current address?
1013 Bubble Drive.
Is that here in Las Cruces?
Yes, sir, it is.
What is your telephone number where we can reach you?
505-555-1234.
How old are you, Mary?
17.
In October of 1998, how old were you?
16.
Were you going to a high school in October of 98?
I was, yes, sir. I was traveling back home at the time, though.
Which high school?
Mayfield High School.
Near what intersection in Mayfield located?
Hoagland and Bubble.
How far is Bubble from that intersection?
I don't know exactly in distance. It's about 10-15 minutes.
It's not too far?
No.
At that time, I'm talking about October of 1998, did you walk or drive to school?
Drive.
Would you drive a vehicle, or would someone drive you to the high school?
I drove my own vehicle.
In October of 1998, were you a witness to an accident involving a young pedestrian and a car?
Yes, sir, I was.
Do you recall the time of morning in which you saw this accident?
Between 7:30 and 8.
What were you doing at that time?
I had realized I had forgotten my backpack, so I was on my way driving back home to go pick it back up so I wouldn't be forgetting my homework.
At that time of the accident, on what street were you driving and in what direction?
I was driving on Hoagland East.
By the way, what kind of car were you driving?
1991 Geostorm.
What color?
Teal.
Teal?
Yes.
At the time of this accident, at what point on Hoagland were you at?
There's another little street right after Bubble. I think it's called Embassy. It was right past that street.
Was anybody with you at the time?
No, I was by myself.
How was it that you happened to witness this accident?
I was driving directly behind the lady that hit her.
Tell me what you saw at the time of the accident.
We were driving down the street, and the young lady that was on the side of the road, she was talking with somebody across the street. I remember I was getting kind of upset because the lady in front of me was driving rather slowly, and I was worried about being late for school because I had to drive all the way back home to get my backpack. I was driving right behind her. The lady driving the car noticed the girl wasn't paying attention. She was paying very much attention to the people that were on the sides of the streets.
Let me ask you a favor. Slow down a little bit.
I'm sorry. I have a habit of talking fast. And so we were driving. I was driving behind her. She slowed down. The girl was talking with somebody across the street. She walked out in the middle of the street, not looking in either direction, and the lady slowed down as much as she could, but ended up hitting her anyway.
The girl that was talking to another girl across the street, was she on the right or left?
She was on the right.
Was she on the sidewalk or on the street?
She was on the curb.
Was there anybody else with that girl?
Yeah, there was like 3 or 4 other people that were all walking to school with her.
Approximately how old did this girl appear to be?
15 at the most.
Why is it that it appeared to you that she was talking to someone across the street?
She was making the hand gestures and she was looking straight at the other person across the street. She wasn't paying attention.
This little girl that was involved in the accident, was she standing at a crosswalk?
No,
Was there a crosswalk there?
no. There was one at the intersection of Hoagland and Bubble, but not right where she was.
When you said earlier that she stepped off and started walking across the street, did she look in either direction?
No, sir, she didn't.
At the time that she stepped off, did the vehicle that was in front of you stop?
She slowed down. She couldn't completely stop, but she slowed down.
At the time that she stepped off, do you recall whether the little girl was hit or whether she walked into the car?
It looked to me like she walked into the car. She did flip over after she was hit.
The little girl?
Yes.
When you say she walked, and then you have your 200 Q&A number 2, Assistant County Attorney, Tires Limited, Springfield, 7-Up, North River, and South River. And this is Q&A 200. And it starts in the beginning, okay? For 5 minutes, you all. I have not introduced myself. I am the Assistant County Attorney, and I am conducting this examination under the supervision and instructions of the coroner. I'm about to ask you some questions. I want to tell you that under the laws of this state and under the Constitution of this state, you have a perfect legal right to refuse to answer any questions that I may ask, and you have a right not to offer any information that might tend to incriminate you. A person has the right to refuse to give any information that might tend to prove you guilty of a crime. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now that I have explained to you, do you wish to testify?
Yes,
Do you waive your constitutional privilege?
I do.
How old are you at the present time?
28.
Are you a married man?
I am?
Do you have any children?
Yes, 3.
What kind of work do you do?
I am a salesman, sell tires for Tires Limited.
Where is the main office?
Right here, the city.
Do you work on the road that is over a territory?
Right.
On the day of June 6th, were you driving a car?
I was
Where were you driving to? What was your destination?
to Springfield.
Were you traveling on business?
Well, no, I was traveling through to start work Tuesday. I was to be in Springfield Tuesday. I was to work the jobbers and the stores there the next day.
Were you driving by yourself?
I was?
There was no one in the car with you?
No.
Where did you cut off the main highway?
I don't know if there is a village there or not. I haven't been in this district very long, and I am not too sure about different locations.
When did you leave for this trip?
I had breakfast and picked up my car at the garage.
Did you have anything to drink that morning before leaving on this trip?
No,
You picked your car up at what time?
I was there about 9 o'clock.
On the entire trip from the time you left until the time of the accident, were you alone?
That is right.
Did you stop any place after you left the city limits?
Yes, my engine was a little warm, and I stopped to take on some water. While the man was putting the water in, I had a bottle of 7-Up and a bag of potato chips.
Where was this?
I don't know, just a little station out of town a few miles.
Did you have anything to drink anywhere along the way?
No.
Not even a bottle of beer?
After or before?
Did you have any after that then?
Yes, I did. I had 1 bottle of beer between North River and South River.
Did you have more than one bottle?
No,
Did you stop for lunch anywhere?
no,
You had no lunch up to the time of the accident.
right,
As you were riding along, did you have any difficulty in driving?
no,
Were you sleepy at all?
no,
How long have you been driving a car?
for 10 years.
Hadn't you planned on having lunch?
Yes, but the accident took place before I came to a good place to eat.
Will you tell us what the traffic was like after you got out on the road?
There was quite some traffic on the road, fairly heavy.
Both ways?
Yes,
How fast were you driving?
around 60 in there.
Did you pass a number of automobiles?
I passed some and several passed me. I don't know how many.
Can you remember anything that might have interfered with your driving?
No, I can't.
Could you have fallen asleep?
No,
And you say you were not under the influence of liquor of any kind.
no.
Do you remember where this accident happened?
Well, just this side of the river. I am not too familiar with the route. This is the first time I had ever been over this particular road.
Do you know if the accident took place on a curve of the road or was it on a straight stretch?
A little curve, a very gradual curve, but it was definitely a curve.
Was it before you made the turn onto the curve or after you had started the curve?
I was on the curve at the time.
Did you pass any cars while you were on the curve before the accident happened?
I can't remember too much of the details. I mean, I wasn't keeping too close track of what happened. I mean, I didn't know it was going to happen. I wasn't prepared for it.
Did you see this car coming toward you that was involved in the accident with you?
Well, just like you see any car that is coming toward you when you are driving, you don't pay special attention to it.
Can you say how far ahead of you this car was when you first noticed it?
I don't know for sure.
Do you have a conscious recollection of seeing it at some distance away, or was it there all of a sudden?
No, it was there coming toward me.
On which side of the road were you when it was coming toward you?
Oh, I was on my own side of the road, pretty well over.
Does the road have a center line in it?
Yes, I think so. I am not too sure.
I mean, a marking or a crack?
Yes, I think so.
It divides the road into two halves.
I was well against the center line.
Were you over the center line?
I might have been a little bit. I wasn't paying too much attention.
Do you recall anything about the behavior of the other automobile? I mean, while it was approaching you.
We were coming toward each other and I just started to pull over.
And so now we'll get ready for your 180s. 180 number 1, you have Mrs. Glenn, Allstate Insurance Company, Mr. Morgan, Diane Woods, Ann, Cambridge, Delgado, Turo, Orleans, North Ridgewood, Orleans Street, Mrs. Galliano, Orleans Avenue. And so insurance company is SNURK, S-N-U-R-K. Okay, S-N-U-R-K. And this is going to be, starts at the beginning, 5 minutes, 180, number 1. Mrs. Glenn, I'm here for Allstate Insurance Company. I'm going to ask you some questions today to find out a little bit about you and about the accident that you had some time back with Mr. Morgan. I'm going to ask you some things like I say about the accident and also about whatever injuries you may have gotten in the accident. If I ask you a question that you don't understand, just let me know and we'll clear it up, okay?
I understand.
Give me your full name, please.
Diane Woods.
Do you have a middle name?
No, I do not.
How long have you resided at your present residence?
Approximately 1 month.
Where did you reside before?
With my stepmother.
You resided at your present residence at the time of the accident, correct?
Right, that is correct.
Are you married or are you single?
Single.
Any children?
I have 3.
I understand it was Anne who was accompanying you at the time of the accident. Is that correct?
Correct.
Let me make sure we have the right date of birth. You were born on October the 7th, 1953.
That is correct.
Have you ever been in the military at any time?
No, I have never been in the military.
Have you ever pled guilty or been convicted of any type of criminal offense?
No.
What is the highest level of school that you have been to?
I finished the 12th grade and 1 year of college.
What high school was that?
Cambridge.
What college did you go to?
I went to Delgado.
What did you study over there?
Nursing, medical assistant.
Did you get a certificate or anything like that? Why did you stop going?
What did you say?
Why did you stop going to Delgado?
I started getting a lot of children and I simply stopped.
Are you currently employed?
No, I am not employed.
When is the last occasion you were?
Within 5 years at Turo.
About 5 years ago at Turo?
I had a job sitting with a man.
Why did you stop that job?
The man died.
That was, I think you said 5 years ago, roughly?
Yes, about 5 years ago.
According to the police report, this accident happened on January 18, 1995. Is that correct?
I believe that is about right.
Tell us where the accident happened.
I was crossing Orleans, and before I got to the corner of Orleans, that's where I got hit.
Let me ask you this. What time did it happen?
Approximately 7 o'clock or so.
How was the weather that evening?
It was raining. It wasn't heavy rain. However, it was raining.
It was raining.
Drizzly.
How were the streets? Were they dry or wet?
It was wet.
Was it dark outside?
In that particular area, it was dark, but they had a light by the intersection.
I mean, as far as the sky goes at 7 p.m. on January 18, was it dark or not?
It was cloudy.
Was it nighttime?
It was nighttime.
Okay, where were you proceeding from at that interval?
I was coming from my residence going to the store.
That residence was on North Ridgewood, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Which store were you going to?
On New Orleans Street, Mrs. Galliano's store.
I'm sorry, what was the name of that?
Mrs. Galliano is the owner.
Is that the name of the business?
Correct. We all call it that.
I understand that Anne was accompanying you, is that correct?
Correct, she was.
And as far as Anne accompanying you, approximately how old was she at the time?
And approximately 3.
3 years old?
Correct, sir.
Was she walking or were you carrying her?
I was holding her. When the automobile hit me, I inadvertently let her go.
Do you have claims for Anne for this accident?
No.
Explain to us how it happened.
Well, I was going to the store. I was coming from my residence. The corner that I come to is Orleans. I was crossing the street, cradling my baby. Before I could maneuver to the store, before I recognized danger, the car hit me. They recount that I let my baby go, and she went to the front of the store.
Did you see the automobile at all before the accident happened?
I spotted a light. You look both ways, you understand. When I looked, the automobile was distant, very distant from me.
So I understand you were walking to the store.
I was crossing the street to get to the store.
Where's Mrs. Galliano's store in relation to the corner of Orleans and North Ridgewood? I'm asking, is it adjacent to that corner?
My apartment was right here. You just go to this intersection and then you cross Orleans to get to the store.
Is she right at the corner of North Ridgewood?
Yes, sir, right there.
Okay, what items were you going to get that evening?
I was going to get some coconuts,
Anything else?
whiskey, and cigarettes.
I understand that Orleans Avenue, where this accident happened, has 2 lanes heading in one direction. Then there's a median and 2 lanes in another direction. Is that correct?
Yes, however, from where I stay, the only thing you have to do is proceed to the corner of Orleans and cross Orleans, right?
Okay, and so we have your second 180, Tony, Polaroids, Exhibit 3, Reebok, TV, and VCR. And so real quickly, TV is just TV, and then VCR is VCR. And this is going to be, you all, it starts in the middle for 5 minutes, 180, number 2. Did you go and examine the front door of Tony's apartment?
Yes, I did.
What did you find when you looked at the front door of the apartment?
I observed a deadbolt lock. I observed a regular doorknob. Just to the right of the lock and the doorknob, I observed a hiking boot type shoe print from a sole of a boot. And then I observed to the right of that, I believe it was a little higher than the boot print, a Reebok tennis shoe print.
What was the condition of the door?
The door was broken, bypassing the lock mechanism. The wooden part of the door was damaged.
At that point in time, did you take some Polaroids of the shoe prints on the door?
Yes, I did.
Let me show you what's been marked as Exhibit 3. Can you identify Exhibit 3 for us?
Yes, they are the Polaroid pictures that I took of Tony's front door.
Okay, and what do those? It looks like there are 3 Polaroids in there, in that plastic bag, although only 2 of them are visible. What specifically are those photographs of?
The 2 that I can see are of the Reebok tennis shoe print, and I believe the one underneath is the damage to the door. But I would have to open the package to reveal.
We've got some other photographs over here. We will deal with that later. All right. After you looked at the door and you talked to Tony, what else did you do at the apartment?
Well, I walked in the apartment briefly, but walked straight out, and then I walked to the manager's office.
When you were in the apartment, did Tony show you or tell you where the TV and VCR were in the apartment?
Yes, he did.
Where were they in relationship to the door? How far away?
Approximately 12 to 15 feet away from the front door into the living room portion of the apartment, and it was against the wall where he pointed out where his television was sitting and the VCR.
Did somebody have to come into the apartment to get to that location?
Most definitely.
What was Tony's demeanor when he was describing it?
His demeanor was articulate on what happened. He was casually dressed. He made sense. He gave me all the facts in correlation with the evidence I had and appeared to be telling me the truth.
Did Tony appear to you to be under the influence of drugs in any way?
No, he did not.
Do you come in contact with individuals who are under the influence of drugs on a regular basis?
Yes, I do.
How often would you say you come in contact with individuals who are under the influence of some drugs? And I will include alcohol as a drug.
How often? I would have to say at least 20 times a week.
So you are fairly familiar with the signs and symptoms of a person who is under the influence of drugs.
Yes.
Would you be familiar with the signs and symptoms of a person who is under the influence of heroin?
Yes.
Anything that you saw on Tony or that Tony did that evening that would indicate to you that he was under the influence of heroin?
No.
Did you check his shoes to see if they matched the shoe prints on the door?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did you have any reason to do that?
No.
Tell us about the condition of the inside of the apartment. Was it a neat and orderly apartment, everything in its place?
I would recall that it was quite empty. It appeared that he was at least getting ready, packed up, ready to go and to move out of the apartment. But yes, it was neat and clean.
Things were in boxes?
A few items, yeah.
Did Tony tell you he was about to move?
Yes.
Did Tony say something about a coffee table?
Yes, he did.
What did he tell you about the coffee table?
Tony also stated that the subject that he had met on the bus the day prior, on the 16th, had come over to his apartment, saw that he was moving and selling some items, and he sold a coffee table to the subject he had met on the bus. He also stated while this subject walked in the front door of his apartment, Tony's apartment, to purchase the coffee table, the subject stopped in the doorway, paused for a minute and said, "Nice TV," as he looked at Tony's television. Tony said, "Thanks," and sold him the coffee table.
Anything else that you can remember that Tony told you at that point in time?
No, I think that's about all of it.
Okay, anything else that you did at the apartment at that point in time?
Yes, I went to the manager's office and spoke with the manager and obtained a name and an apartment number.
What information did you give to the manager of the apartment?
I told her that I was investigating a burglary where a victim's door was kicked in and a TV and VCR were taken from the apartment. I told her that the subject, the victim, was Tony, and I told her...
Okay, you all. So that concludes your tests. Hopefully you got one. Type one up, see how you're doing. And have a great day, okay?